All right, I'd like to welcome you all to the September Watertown School Board meeting, and I'll call the meeting to order, and we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, under the consent agenda, item 2.1, roll call. All board members except Carrie Lohr are present. Item 2.2, are there any conflicts of interest that need to be disclosed this evening among the board members? Item 2.3, we need a review and approval of the agenda. If we could have a motion, please.
I move approval of the agenda.
Second.
Motion by Moulton and second by Iverson. Any comments or questions on the agenda? Hearing none, all in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 2.4, we need to approve the minutes of the August 8th board meeting. If we could have a motion on that, please.
So moved.
Motion by Iverson.
Second.
And second by Stein to approve the minutes. Any comments on that? Hearing none, all in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And 2.5, we'll receive the financial reports for August 2022.
Thank you. In the general fund, the revenue consists of a small amount of tax proceeds, state aid, and federal dollars. The federal dollars are associated with expenditures that occurred in fiscal year 2022. This fund's ending cash position reflects a decrease when compared to the prior 2 years and is a direct reflection of the spend-down accommodations of ESSER-supported dollars. Note that the typical transfer in from capital outlay in the amount of $1.2 million was not accommodated in FY22. Capital outlay includes a transfer in of $1 million made from the Lake Area Tech operating budget as contributed to the athletic planning project and a reflection of the internal advertising contract that the district has with LATC. When the remaining certificate allocation for the remodel of the high school is retained from the balance, this fund sees an increased cash balance. The increased balance will assist in supporting Phase 1 of the athletic complex. Special education received a small amount of tax proceeds, the monthly state aid payment, and federal revenue. The federal revenue was in the form of 611-619 funds for the costs that occurred in FY22. The expenditures exceeded the revenue during the month of August, and this fund's ending cash position reflects improvement over the prior years. K-12 nutrition saw increased activity with the startup of school. Operation in this fund will be impacted with the federal support program expiring, in which provided free meals to all students. Increased reimbursement rates for free and reduced status will assist in supporting the operation in this fund with the impacts created by inflation. Families are reminded to fill out the free and reduced applications to assist them with meals as well as pay balances to support their lunch accounts. The revenue in Lake Area Technical College's budget exceeded the expenditures due to the receipt of the first semester tuition and student fees. As a note that I made prior, the $1 million transfer was made to support the K-12 capital outlay funds in support of the athletic complex and the internal advertising agreement. This fund's ending cash position reflects a decrease when compared to the prior 2 years and is a direct reflection of the increased construction activity and operating transfer out. Lake Area saw increased activity in financial aid, bookstore, and food service with the first semester underway. Lake Area Educare saw expenditures exceed revenue during the month due to the payments of building improvements made at the Garfield location. The improvements were supported by increased fund operation as supported by CARES dollars. In the Employee Benefit Trust, the claims were exceeded by the premiums for the month. Premium will increase in September with 10-month employees contributing to the plan. The ending cash position reflects a decrease. Should you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
Are there any questions on the financial reports this evening?
So you mentioned with the Employment Benefit Trust, which is the health insurance, correct?
Yes, correct.
The premiums increased, so it looks as if we'll need to watch that, correct?
Yes, actually the claims have exceeded the premium. And just a note on that in September when we run premium, we'll have the 10-month employees within that contribution. But one thing to note is we are seeing increased claims, and a lot of that probably is the impact of COVID. And we anticipate that a lot of the increase, as well as from those surgeries that were put off hold, are likely now taking place, kind of making up for that time where you couldn't do as much during the pandemic. But you are correct, we are watching that. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions on the financial reports? Okay, moving on to the discussion items for Lake Area 3.1. Is there any public input this evening for agenda or non-agenda items related to Lake Area? Okay, next 3.2, a work session is scheduled for a joint meeting with the school board and the Lake Area Tech Advisory Committee Council, October 13th from 12 to 2 p.m. Is there anything you wanted to add to that, President Courtney?
Yes, ma'am. This is an annual meeting. It's part of the charter of the Strategic Advisory Council, which is a regional industry council, to advise the school board on matters associated with Lake Area Tech. It is open to the public, and it will be at noon on level 4.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have item 3.3 and our Lake Area Fall Enrollment Report from President Courtney.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Slide, please. So, enrollment for this fall is looking strong. We're up about 2.2% over last fall, and that's following a 35 FTE is full-time equivalent, an increase of 35 students last year. So overall, that's very good news. This, we have an extremely large sophomore class, 969 returning students came back on campus. And I'll give you some more details, but this is nationally, the talk has been the missing million, which is there's 1 million less students in college than typically for this time of year. And South Dakota is going against that grain, and our enrollment seems to be, are in fact going up. So it's good news. Next slide. Here you can see that the returning students over last year is a significant increase, about 128 more sophomores than what we had last year. Overall, we've seen an increase in the number of students in programs as opposed to seeking a certificate or therefore what we call academic preparation. And then, of course, the total enrollment then is up by about 48 students over the start last year. And these numbers will continue to go up as we add students in the fall, in the spring and then in the summer. As I mentioned, an increase in full-time students, also in growth in high-demand programs. In fact, now the largest program on campus remains agriculture, but nursing is now number 2, as they've topped the 200-student number. And then diesel is right behind them, almost at 200 students. And then we have our business program is also north of 160 students. So good growth in the programs across the board. Our diversity numbers are holding really steady, and that's good news. When the percent stays about the same and your numbers grow, that means that the absolute number of students is increasing. We're about as close to 50-50 as you can get on male versus female, which is also atypical for community colleges, as they tend to have more females than males. And very interesting that we have over a fifth of our students are first generation, meaning that they are the first person in their family to go to school. Their parents haven't, their grandparents have not gone to school. So that's really a good number and a nice high number. And of course, we've increased our overall unduplicated headcounts for fall by 29%, almost 30%. Dual status is doing well. We have 422 students enrolled in dual status, and that represents about 68 different school districts across South Dakota. And of course, those numbers will again go up as we add more students in districts in the spring and some in the summer. Build Dakota extremely strong, and as we mentioned, you've got 7% of the new students are on Build Dakotas, and 3%, or I'm sorry, about $3 million in scholarships, over $3 million this year in scholarships for our students, and that's really a boost considering that we used to give south of $500,000 per year in scholarships. Next slide. So with that, I certainly yield to any questions or from the board.
Thank you. I always love listening to your presentations. Could you send me a copy of that as an email too,
Oh,
that
absolutely.
document?
Yes, ma'am.
I speak to different groups around town and they always ask questions.
Okay.
So that'd be great.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, any other comments or questions on the enrollment report? All right, if not, we'll move to the action items for Lake Area, and first of all, 4.1, the property items. 4.1.1, consider the lease agreements for heavy equipment operator.
Yes, ma'am. You have in front of you 6 lease agreements for equipment that's needed for our heavy equipment operator program. This equipment's used for them to not only learn on, but they learn by doing as they do community projects. So there's 2 pieces of equipment from TransSource that we will lease for the entire year, totaling $23,000. And then there's 2 pieces of equipment from Peterson Motors, and those are only leased for 3 months, and for a total of $21,000. And then 2 pieces of equipment from Interstate Power Systems, and those 2 pieces again are leased only for this first 3 months, for a total of $22,800. We request your approval of those leases.
Could we have a motion, please?
I move approval of the lease agreements as presented.
Motion by Moulton,
Second.
second by Iverson to approve the lease agreements for the heavy equipment operator program. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 4.1.2, consider the surplus property resolution.
Yes, ma'am. You have in front of you a surplus property resolution that requests that the wind terminal that is out near Stone's Cafe be surplus to be donated. We're looking for a potential donee for that piece of equipment, as it does have some value. And then to be traded, a grain cart with tracks, and then items to be disposed of. You can see the list of some of the other items that will be disposed of as they have no value. So we request your approval of the surplus property resolution.
Okay, motion, please.
I move that we approve the surplus property resolution.
Motion by Iverson. Second by Moulton. Comments or questions? If none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 4.1.3, the authority to bid a semi-tractor and trailer.
Yes, ma'am. Lake Area Tech requests the authority to bid a sleeper semi-tractor and trailer to support the commercial driver's license training course. With the new entry-level driver's training requirements for CDL by the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, there's an increased demand for this certification. Purchasing the new sleeper tractor and trailer provides the equipment needed to nearly double our current capacity, and the income from the for-credit and non-credit bearing courses will be what offsets the cost of this equipment. So we request your permission to bid a semi-tractor and trailer.
Okay, motion, please.
I move the authority to bid a semi-tractor and trailer as presented.
Motion by Moulton. Second by Iverson. Questions? Hearing none, all in favor of approval, say aye. Opposed? That motion carries. And now we'll move on to personnel. And first of all, we've got 4.2.1 and the resignations.
Yes, ma'am. You have in front of you 3 resignations that we'd recommend your approval as presented.
Motion, please.
Move approval of the resignations as presented.
Motion by Stein. Second by Moulton to approve the resignations. Comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 4.2.2, the contract recommendations and addendums.
Yes, ma'am. You'll see an extensive list of contract recommendations and addendums. This addresses our funding for our paying our staff for both the new faculty academy, 2 different types of funding there. One for the new people, but then also some of our staff that assisted with as mentors and so forth. Also included in those are the part-time temporary and the adjunct contracts that go out as we provide the staffing for those new students, the increase in students that we have. as well as addressing some of this, some of the programs have specific needs where they bring in an adjunct to teach a particular topic. I request your approval of the contract recommendations and addendums.
Okay, could we have a motion to approve?
Move approval of the contract recommendations and addendums.
Motion by Stein. And second by Everson. Questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And 4.2.3, an authority to hire.
Yes, ma'am. Lake Area Tech requests the authority to hire an additional commercial driver's license instructor. With the new entry-level driver training requirements as described above, there's an increased demand for this training, as mentioned. Lake Area Tech trains students in multiple programs, including heavy equipment operator, agriculture, and diesel technology. The college also trains individuals through corporate education for their CDL licensure. The course for a beginner is about 4 weeks. Hiring an additional instructor along with the equipment investment will enable the college to nearly double our capacity for the training. We also will receive a grant to provide CDL through apprenticeships, and we anticipate the cost for the instructor at about $65,000. We request your approval on the authority to hire a CDL instructor.
Okay, motion?
Move approval to make the hire for the CDL instructor.
Motion by Stein. Second by Moulton. Comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor of approval say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And item 4.2.4, retirements.
Yes, ma'am. As a point of personal privilege, I'd like to read the letter that I've submitted. To the Watertown School Board and Dr. Danielson, it is with much anticipation for the future that I inform you that I intend to retire as president of Lake Area Technical College effective 31 December 2022. When I asked for your support in hiring me, I promised that together we would do great things. Under your leadership, with the employees of Lake Area Tech, joined by industry in this community, we have indeed accomplished great things. Lake Area Tech is on the path to continue to be great, and my heart is warm knowing that they will all carry on the work of changing lives and launching careers better than any other college in this nation. It is also the duty of a president to know when it's time to turn over the helm. And in my heart, I know that it is that time, both professional and personally. I am forever grateful for the grace and support provided during my tenure as we dealt with everything from personal tragedy to a pandemic. As I will forever hold the pride I felt serving this organization when you won the Aspen Prize for Community College Excellence, hosted a President of the United States, graced the pages of Time magazine not once but twice, and raised over $40 million for new buildings without taxing our students as we continue to grow and flourish. But mostly, I will forever cherish and hold close the love and respect shown by me by each and every member of the Lake Area Tech family. I am humbled to call you my friends. For that, I will be eternally grateful, and I am honored to have worked with each and every one of you, and I wish all of you only the best. While part of me will always be with Lake Area Tech, it is time for me to write the next chapter of my life. Know that I will watch as a father watches a child as Lake Area Tech continues its journey. My heart will continue to swell with pride, and I will cheer as you continue to do great things. May God continue to hold and keep you. Signed, Michael Cartney, President.
Okay, could we have a motion on that item?
I'm trying to stall this motion as long as I can. But I suppose it's my duty. Move approval of the retirements as presented.
Motion by Stein. And a second by Iverson. I'll start out. I've got a few comments here. First of all, congratulations, Mike.
Thank you.
Under your leadership, Lake Area has accomplished great things. I was the president of the school board in spring of 2014 when Deb Shepherd was retiring. And we went in through the interview process and hired you as Lake Area's 5th president or director and president. Under your leadership, Lake Area has grown tremendously in terms of the number of students that are enrolled, the size of the campus, the number of the buildings on campus, and the number of state and national awards and accolades that Lake Area and yourself have received. You came back to Watertown after your distinguished Air Force career and accepted this position, the position of Lake Area Technical Institute's Vice President in 2007. Lake Area had had a history of success prior to that you and those around you that were able to continue to build on. Lake Area continued to develop its culture of success because of your leadership and your ability to work with people, the staff, the students, industry partners, local, state, and national government officials, and our community. So thank you for that. We're now accepting what is your second retirement in a life full of great accomplishments. So on behalf of myself and the board, I'd like to thank you for your service and your leadership. First, thank you, Colonel Cartney, for your service to this country. And now, thank you, President Cartney, for your leadership and successes at Lake Area. Congratulations.
Thank you, ma'am.
Any other comments?
I'll just add to the long list of accomplishments. I want to thank you personally, Mike, as somebody who came in with no technical school real knowledge at all, other than what the average citizen might have. I appreciate the lessons I've learned and the way that you've helped me understand the goal and the mission of Lake Area Tech. It's been a great 5 years, so I just thank you for letting me be a part of that, and wish you the best of luck.
Thank you, sir.
President Kearney, I'll just chime in again. Thank you for all that you've done for Lake Area Tech and the community of Watertown. I have a tremendous amount of respect for you. I've learned a lot from you, and your leadership skills, your leadership style, and just how you have a really keen sense of the bigger picture. And I've really appreciated the opportunity to learn from you and get to know you on a personal level, and wishing you nothing but the best here in the next chapter.
I too would like to thank you first for your service to our country in your first career, and thank you for coming back to Watertown for 15 years and your service. And I guess I'm excited for you personally as you move on to a new stage. It's a great stage in life, and I wish you well there. But it is a loss for us. But thank you for all your years and what you've done.
I want to thank you for holding the flag, as you will, of Watertown, nationally, regionally, statewide. I know you attended quite a few meetings in all those areas, and I want to thank you for the service for that too, as well as to your country.
Thank you. Ma'am, if I can just make one final,
Yep.
I'm a Watertown High School graduate, and the support that I've seen throughout the years that the school has from the community, not just Lake Area Tech, but the K-12 system also, is really phenomenal. Your leadership has made my job pretty easy, and it's easy because you got just a great group of people at Lake Area Tech, and on the K-12 side, and your leadership just makes that all flow. So I appreciate Dr. Danielson's comments. It's unusual to be running a technical college and a K-12 system, but you do that very well, sir, and I appreciate it. And this board has that same challenge, and it's a very unique situation, one that's not found many places in the country, but it works well, and you can see that by Lake Area Tech's performance. So thank you, and I appreciate your leadership and contributions throughout these years.
It's going to be some big shoes to fill, but it's going to be exciting moving ahead.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
see how Lake Area can remain great.
Oh, they will. And some people ask why this time, and I do that because it's if I retire and set it at June 30th, that would put the new president their budget's already set. The people for the next year are already hired, and those types of things. Every organization can use improvement, and hopefully the new president can see where we need to go, and will have the opportunity to affect the coming year's budget, the coming year's personnel, those things, and not have to wait a whole year before they can do that. So it really is the best time, I believe, to retire.
Thank you. We have the motion and the second to accept this retirement. All in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. All right, we'll move on to the discussion items for 14-4. And first of all, is there any public input this evening on agenda or non-agenda items for the K-12 side of the road? If not, 5.2, the Northeast Tech High School report.
Thank you. We did not have a meeting, or sorry, we did have a meeting in the superintendent's and kind of got off the ground. That was in August. Reminder to folks that the next meeting of the full board is on September 21st, 5:45. And one kind of item of note is that the Hamlin School District has submitted their withdrawal notice to us. That is a 20-month withdrawal, so that means that the Hamlin School District would be with us for the 22-23 school year, as well as the 23-24, with exiting then in the fall of 24. So that is of interest in terms of the co-op itself. But that was delivered at the August board meeting, and so we have been kind of looking at that since then.
Okay, thanks. Next is item 5.3, and we'll have a summer curriculum update from Tricia Walker.
Thank you. Thanks for the invitation to be here and share some of the learning that happened this summer. It includes both learning for teachers and for students. And so the first section is going to be about summer school. We were able to continue our expanded summer school because of COVID funding. It was located this year at the intermediate and the middle school, and we were able to provide transportation once again, and that makes a huge difference for a lot of our students. We had 112 students take advantage of the transportation option. We also were able to continue our ELL services this year, which were very much appreciated. On the K-6 side, we had 243 students, and 76, or about a third of those, were in two areas between reading, math, or ELL. So we had a fair amount of double up on some of the services provided. We had a total of 13 instructors and 13 paras between reading and math, and it was really designed around interventions and curriculum to kind of keep those students learning through the month of June, catching up some of the gap skills and preparing them for what's next. At the 7-8 level, there were two different options. There was a reading camp and a math camp, and then summer school. So the reading and math camps were designed to address students who had gaps in skills. We serviced 20 7th graders and 18 8th graders for reading. And then the next slide will be 14 7th graders and 16 8th graders for math. And both of those camp options were designed to build or rebuild missing grade level skills, so gaps in skills. We had 42 students attend summer school, and that eligibility was for failing a class or needing to recover an actual credit or a class. Instruction was focused on grade level or coursework. There were 5 instructors and 2 paras. And that next slide will show the number of credits that were recovered in those subject areas at the middle school level. 34 math, 41 English, 15 for science, 12 social studies, and 41 elective credits. At the high school level, summer school serviced 96 students. The eligibility was determined by loss of learning in courses, and the instruction focused on coursework. We had 2 night school instructors, 4 core content instructors, and 2 special ed instructors providing that service. And you can see the number of credits issued at the high school level. Extended school year, ESY, services students who are on an IEP. So we had the instructors first. We had 5 K-6 instructors. Those would be students who are on an IEP, like learning center students, so students with learning disability. We had 4 SLC teachers. SLC is our structured learning center. Those are low cognitive students who are determined to need sustained services over the summer so they don't regress. We had 3 early childhood teachers, 2 high school teachers, 3 speech and OT staff members, 10 paraprofessionals, and a transportation. So it takes a fair number of staff to service those students, and that's by law to meet the needs of their IEP. That's the extended school year services that are provided. We service 49 K-6 students, 12 structured learning center, 19 students at the high school level for credit recovery, and they earned a total of 13.5 credits. To participate in ESY, you have to have an IEP qualification and you work on specific goals determined by that IEP. And then our ELL summer school, we had 2 instructors and 2 paras. They serviced a total of 22 students, K-12, and they really focus on reading, writing, listening, and speaking English, trying to keep those kids learning. We know that when they are in their homes over the summer, a lot of them may speak in their native languages and not have exposure to English, and so it's been a service to provide the summer learning for them. Our driver's education program serviced 134 students this year. 26 of those students received support from the Aero Education Foundation. They paid reduced fees. We had 8 instructors, but there's definitely additional need there. It was difficult to accommodate. We had to take a waiting list and readjust our schedules to kind of meet as many needs as we could. There was also a shortage of cars, and so I'm just kind of keeping you updated on some of the results of how that program turns out, but we were able to service 134 students in driver's ed. The next section is talking about our curriculum adoption and updates. So for the summer of 22, I'm talking about it backwards, we're in year 2 of fine arts and world language and year 1 of science. So the year 2 typically finishes in June. I'm going to start with the visual arts discussion. At K-8, we were continuing to develop our sequence of skills, kind of focusing on the mediums, the artists, the historical art periods. And then at 9-12, they were working on curriculum maps for their newly aligned courses. And I think I've shared those with you before, but I listed them there. It's Introduction to Art, which was formerly design. They kind of retooled that to introduce students to all the different art courses that are available at the high school. And so they really focused a lot of their projects to feature the different courses that students could use to extend their art learning. They offered an arts and crafts class, an advanced art, and then they will offer printmaking. Those are on a rotating basis just to accommodate staff and numbers, and so that will be offered for the first time next fall. For K-12 music, both vocal and instrumental, we continued to refine our draft of specific skills for each grade level. We really worked on creating a schedule for performances and opportunities, expectations to make sure that we're balancing those at all the levels and giving students opportunities. And then our instrumental teachers worked on developing some rubrics for different expectations, particularly at their middle intermediate levels. That was a big focus of what they did this summer. Year 2 of world language, 2 of our 4 in the department were new, and so we were catching up a little bit on some of the work we started last summer, but we worked with the new curriculum materials, focusing on comprehensible input, the strategies that we learned last summer, and then developing their specific course maps and pacing guides to go along with those, and incorporating those strategies for levels 1 through 4 of each of those, German and Spanish, our 2 world languages. And then in July, we started year 1 of our K-12 science adoption. We started with reviewing the current South Dakota science standards and comparing that with our school district programming, trying to see if we're on pace, on par with what we are expected to teach. We spent some time exploring best practices in science instruction, and I just noted a couple of the things that we featured. The 3-dimensional science standards. DCI was the disciplinary core. Is really the heart of science, like the skills of science. The CC are the cross-cutting concepts, those skills, the patterns, and things that you see throughout all of science. And then the SEP would be the science and engineering principles, so really talking about how science crosses all 3 of those. We explored phenomena teaching, which is where you present students with some unusual or some big question that's not easily answered, but they use their scientific knowledge to kind of find the answer. And then the 5E model of science, which is a lot of exploration, experimenting, trying to engage students in the learning of science. And then we worked on aligning content between grades. How do we make sure that as a student progresses from K through 12, that their science is well-rounded and aligned without gaps, without overlap? So K-5 has already made the decision that their adoption will be to renew Mystery Science. That's the product we've had for our last cycle, and we feel it still meets the needs of our students. But they are going to spend a lot of time working to review and align those lessons and developing common assessments. So that will be a deeper dive into those skills. At 6-8, we currently teach Earth Science in grade 6, Life Science in grade 7, and Physical Science in grade 8. Those middle level science standards are banded in that way, but another option is to do a little of each of those contents in each grade to try to do a little more spiraling and developing those over the course of the 3 years. And so we met with our 6-8 teachers to try to determine how that might look if we went to more of a integrated science look. And so we had some presentations from companies that have banded materials and integrated materials, trying to decide if that's the right fit for us. I think in the end we haven't landed on a final answer. There's some desire to do some integrating. We feel like it might better meet our students' needs, but wanting to find the right structure for that. And so we still have this school year and next summer to kind of land on that final answer. At 9 through 12, we reviewed the course changes, and you've been presented with these before, but at the high school level, typically a 9th grader would take biology, a 10th grader would do physical science, and then some sort of lab elective. And we have a number of electives at the high school that will continue. We reviewed the boundaries of our standards and how do we make sure, again, that our students are seeing new content without overlap and gap. And then we worked with we had a lot of new staff at our science department as well, and so working with content partners to develop those course expectations and putting together mapping to make sure things will fit. So the summer of 23, kind of looking ahead, we will finalize year 2 of science, and then we will start our K-12 math adoption. We plan to do some pre-adoption work during this school year with some of our K-12 math, trying to figure out what we want out of a math program so that we can make good decisions when we start that bigger work next summer. In terms of professional development, this timeline kind of shows a lot of the major things that we had happening this summer. We had a lot of learning happening. In early June, we did district crisis training. That was a refresher, but about half of the team had not been through the crisis training, so it was 2 days, and the first day was anybody who hadn't had it, and the second day was the review for our counselors, social worker, nurses, principals, all of our admin to stay fresh on kind of response to tragedy and crisis. We did our K-6 grade level teams, and our special ed teams had a day together in June. And a lot of that was to continue our literacy work and then also to do some of that science pre-work. We did our summer academy the first week in June, the 20th through the 23rd. One of those days, we had our second annual Early Childhood Day, very appreciated by our community partners who provide early childhood within our community. And so it was just a nice time to connect our early childhood staff with community staff and develop some resources together. We did a Anita Archer offering for a lot of SPED staff, and at the end of June, we took a team of 19 people to the NWA Fusion Conference. That was grant funded. It was a way to meet some of our high school and elementary needs in particular, and then we wanted it to be K-12, so we made sure we had a well-rounded team trying to work with how to best utilize our map data and meet the needs of students across the board. In July, we had some K-4 writing work. They were working on sequencing their materials. That's when our science committee met, and we had our new teacher academy at the end of July. And we kicked off mentoring, which I will share a little bit more about. And then in August, we did some eSpark training for our computer labs. We did our summer academy. We did a substitute training. our paraprofessional training, we had about 20 new paras that we trained in August, and then, of course, our district pre-service when everything ramps back up. So that was a busy summer of learning. Our numbers for Summer Academy are there. We had over 3,000 hours spent in learning between the 2 academy weeks. We had about 200 sessions, and we issued 111 credits, USF graduate credits, in addition to all the CEU hours that staff can earn during those weeks. So it's definitely an investment on behalf of the district, but one that our staff have appreciated and benefit greatly from being able to participate right here in town. The last thing I wanted to highlight was just some information about our new teacher academy. We've not talked a lot about that, but that's definitely a highlight of the summer. This year we had more than 40 new certified staff members, and so we spent 3 scripted days, and I kind of outlined what we did on each of those 3 days, and then they also had 2 days worth of either optional or recommended or required sessions to fill out 5 days of New Teacher Academy to support staff new to the district. That's when we cover our, day 3 in particular, we have our classroom management, de-escalation strategies, just how to support that need. But then in the afternoon, that's when our mentoring kickoff happens. So staff who are in the state mentoring program in the first 2 years of service to the profession can have a state mentor, and so we train them. That's now turned over to the district to provide the training and the kickoff. And then if they're beyond 2 years or they're not in a classroom position, we match them with a curriculum partner for those 3 afternoon hours so that they have someone that they can connect with. And the big goal of the New Teacher Academy is to build that cohort of new folks so they have people to rely on, they know names and faces, they get to know our instructional coaches, they get to know our administration so that they feel like they are supported as they come into this difficult profession. And the feedback we've gotten has been very positive, and you just see them gain confidence and comfort knowing that they're not the only ones and that they know who to turn to and recognize faces within the district. So I definitely am proud of what we were able to do for those new teachers and wanted to spotlight that for you. So with that, if you have questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Is there any discussion or questions?
Sure. I have a couple. Good evening. I think, check Mr. Iverson's, we're both missing pages.
Today's board packet has the middle school pieces that weren't in the early release.
Right.
Yep. So I can get you those.
And the driver's ed, yeah.
Yep.
Super, thanks. Okay, from the beginning, K-6 summer school, you had 243 students, and the main emphasis seems to be reading and math. So on the K-6 level, is there any particular grade level or 2 grade levels or 3 where we're finding reading and math difficulty?
I think through our RTI process, we try to look at it across, all of the grades all at once. So I don't know that there's one spot. We just try to meet the needs of starting from the most needy to service as many students as possible. We have tried to call from, if parents can't fill the slot, then we move up the list and try to keep the ranks as full as possible to service as many as possible. So I don't know that I can say that there's one grade.
Right. So it'd be interesting just to see if there is a grade level or two or three
Okay.
grades where we're having problems with math and reading.
Okay.
And as I've always said, I think we still need a basal reader at the lower level. I think we've discussed that. Okay, 9 through 12 summer school. Is that required, or is that voluntary? Are students required to attend all the summer schools?
I might have to turn to others for that answer. Anybody else?
We send out a letter to families, and then they get back to us whether their student can attend or not, but it's based on recommendations.
Okay, so voluntary, and
If they don't attend, they don't get the
Right, they
credit.
will not have the
They
opportunity
don't
to
get the
earn
credit.
credit,
Yeah.
and they stay that much farther behind
Yep.
wherever they ended the previous school year.
so 9 through 12 summer school, you had 95 students, and they earned 59 credits. Is that about par for the course?
The numbers weren't terribly different from last year's numbers.
Okay.
And that's as far back as I have done this report.
Seems kind of low.
You have to keep in mind they're earning half credits. A lot of those classes are
Right.
half credits.
Okay, good. Thanks for clarifying. Fine arts. We do offer a music and art, fine arts class. It's like an appreciation class, and it's all online. I've always wished that we had a teacher or two that did art history or music, fine arts appreciation right in the classroom. It's a dream. 9 through 12 language. We revised that curriculum. I have to ask, we've had students that graduate from Watertown High School who do exceptionally well at passing a test when they get to college, so they do not have to take the first level course and they can move on to advanced levels. So why would it be necessary to change the curriculum if we're having success in that way?
Just keeping up with current instructional practice.
So is there any way to gauge if in the future we're not having as much success with students achieving a level at college level where they're able to skip the first year? Is it something we should watch?
I think we'll continue to gather that information as students kind of report back to us, but I don't know that we've had a formal.
I was gonna say it'd have to be self-reported, because we do not get like an aggregate
Right.
of who passes any sort of I don't know, the old word is CLEP test, but
Yeah.
at the college level we don't get it for any subject level, and not, so the foreign
Even
language.
remedial math and reading, we don't get those numbers.
Correct. We used to.
We used to, it's too bad. So with the new curriculum for world language, is there less emphasis on writing, grammar?
Actually, it's more. I mean, they have a lot more readers. They have more conversation. It's a lot more conversation driven, and so
Okay.
there's a lot more interaction.
Okay. I'd really like to take a closer look at that too, see what the teachers think about it. Moving on to science, K-5 science. Grant School used to have a huge storage room with all kinds of science materials and lab equipment. Do we still have that?
When Grant was disbanded, we split it up between the buildings and we farmed it out so
Okay.
that it is accessible in each of the sites.
Good, so we haven't lost it.
No.
Interesting what you're going to consider for 6-8 for integrating earth life and physical science. That's interesting. 9-12 science. I noticed in the student handbook for the high school that sophomores can take chemistry, and I think it's been a slight bone of contention or discussion among science teachers that maybe they weren't quite ready for that.
I think that's why the change was encouraged to go back to a physical science, that if they are ahead and have taken physical science or through consultation with the teacher are ready for chemistry as a 10th grader, that is an option. It's not necessarily the normal track, but it is an option.
Because the handbook states that a sophomore student can skip physical science and jump right into chemistry, as stated in the handbook. So I still have questions about that. I think they're not quite ready. They haven't had enough math. Advanced chemistry at the high school. For the second year, is it still dual credit?
Yes.
There are, dual credit has good sides, bad sides. Some of it is good academically, some not quite so good. I think a concern in the past has been that the dual credit really kind of more or less repeated the first year chemistry. It didn't really move on to an advanced level. So I would like to see that looked at, and we need to do something there.
Well, our general chemistry at the high school is a high school chemistry text, and the advanced chemistry uses the college level text. And so it should be only as much overlap as there would normally be between high school and college.
Yeah, I'm only stating that from the narrative that's then given to me by science teachers and the chemistry teachers. So I'm going on what they've told me. Finally, writing curriculum. So you've made a start. Is that going to be in more depth as you move on to next year?
Well, when we adopted our language arts at the elementary level, the writing component was not fully developed, and so we adopted the literature, the reading and the phonics and pieces first, and then as the writing has been released, we've been adding those parts in, and that's at K6. And so it was a gradual release of that material. So we've been continuing with matching the skills and aligning that as they've been released.
One of the emphases we've had in the past is writing across all curriculum areas, that it's strong in every area. It doesn't matter if you're doing math, science, that there's some writing. And it's not just writing on an electronic device. Actually, your brain is much more engaged if you're writing on a piece of paper. And that's why note-taking by hand is so much more of a better memory device. So I'm hoping that as you continue into the writing curriculum, that you examine that we're doing physical writing by pen or pencil and not just on electronic devices. Electronic devices are a whole different skill. That's editing, proofreading, revision is basically that skill. Just something to think about. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions on the summer curriculum? Thank you, Tricia, for your report. You covered a lot in there, so. If there's no other questions, comments, we'll move to the action items for 14-4. And first of all, 6.1, approval of the bills. Could we have a motion, please?
I move approval of the bills.
Motion by Stein,
Second?
second by Iverson. Any comments or questions on the bills? Hearing none, all in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 6.2, we'll move to personnel, and first of all, point 1, resignations.
Would just ask for your consideration for the proposed resignations at the K-12 level.
Okay, could we have a motion, please?
Move approval of the resignations.
Motion by Stein. Second by Moulton to approve the 3 resignations. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 6.2.2, we have an authority to hire.
Yes, we just ask for your consideration for approval, the authority to hire a special education paraprofessional at the McKinley School to fulfill the needs of IEPs.
Okay, motion, please.
Motion to fill the authority to hire, or motion to approve the authority to hire 6.2.2 is presented.
Motion by Stein. Second. Second by Iverson. Questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And 6.2.3, the contract recommendations and addendums.
And for your approval, recommendation for approval are contract recommendations and addendums as presented, getting close to filling all those positions, as well as other lane changes for staff as they complete coursework throughout the year.
Okay, could we have a motion?
Motion to approve the contract recommendations and addendums.
Motion by Stein. Second by Moulton. Are there any comments or questions on that part of the agenda? Hearing none, all in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now we'll move to the property items, and 6.3.1, consider change order number 1 for the athletic complex.
Thank you. The proposed change order consists of 1 modification to the project in the amount of $10,699. The scope of work includes the installation of the LETC logo in the South D Zone area. This is in accordance with the internal advertising agreement between K-12 and Lake Area Tech as part of LETC's $1 million contribution to the project. This leaves the remaining contingency at $123,230.
Okay, could we have a motion?
I move we accept change order number 1.
Motion by Iverson, second by Moulton. Any comments or questions there? So I'd like to thank Lake Area for their donation to the project, and as we move forward, it's really taken shape. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 6.3.2, consider change order number 6 for the high school renovation.
Thank you. The proposed change order consists of 10 modifications to the project in the amount of $93,681. The work includes replacement kitchen doors and an addition of a floor drain and other miscellaneous work in the kitchen, as that area was previously excluded from the project, so these items were added scope. Other work includes sound masking, door and hardware revisions, hallway flooring changes, in addition of a call out to the concourse to add a space for a future ATM. This leaves the remaining contingency at $1,008.
Okay, motion, please.
I move approval of change order number 6, high school renovation.
Motion by Moulton. Second by Iverson. Comments or questions on that change orders? If not, all in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And then 6.3.3, consider a contingency increase for the high school renovation.
Thank you. The high school renovation project was approved with a 5% total project contingency at $627,626. Of the approved contingency, $212,459 is considered unforeseen conditions, which provides the district the ability to increase the contingency line item by $200,000. It is recommended to increase the contingency of the high school renovation project to $827,626. Co-op architect and the mechanical engineer on the project are working through the request for proposal process to identify the potential increase to add air conditioning to the kitchen area. This was previously excluded from the project, but it is in the interest of the district to evaluate this work now through the project scope.
Could we have a motion, please?
I move that we consider increase in the contingency fund.
Motion by Iverson. Second by Moulton. Any comments or questions on this item? If not, all in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 6.3.4, consider the mutual release of the lease agreement with Dakota Gold Academy.
Yes, thank you. What we have before you is a mutual release of our lease agreement with Dakota Gold. We had brought before you in July a lease agreement signed by Dakota Gold and then ultimately approved by the school district. And as we continued to work on the logistics of our gymnastics program being located in there, it became apparent that we still had some items that we just were having some hangups with, and so we are asking to have that terminated. The owners of Dakota Gold have signed off, and we are bringing it before the board for the agreement to mutually release them as well as us from the previously signed agreement.
Okay, could we have a motion on this item, please?
I move approval of the mutual release agreement as presented.
Motion by Moulton,
Second.
second by Iverson. Comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the mutual release, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And then 6.3.5, consider the Park and Rec Facility Agreement.
Yes, previously we have used the city auditorium for use of our gymnastics program, and so we are bringing before you a contract for that facility to be used, and note that is a year-long lease of the facility.
Okay, could we have a motion on that?
I move that we accept this lease agreement with the Park and Rec for the gymnastics program.
Motion by Iverson, second by Moulton. Any comments or questions on the lease agreement? Hearing none, all in favor of approval, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. 6.4, a second reading of policies, and we've got policy JJIC-A.
Yes, there are no changes from the first reading. What we were requesting was a deletion of JJIC-A, which was the letter in policy that accompanied the training rules. Our activities office has been directed to have any correspondence to parents or internal or external communication to reflect JJIC, the updated policy. So we are recommending deletion of that. Your approval of a second reading would mean that it would no longer be a Watertown School District policy.
Okay, could we have a motion on the policy reading?
I move removal of the policy as stated, JJICA.
Motion by Moulton,
Second.
second by Iverson. Comments or questions on the? Hearing none, all in favor of approval, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We've got the student enrollment request next, and 6.5.1, the open enrollments.
Yes, we have 6 open enrollments there for your consideration, recommending approval.
Okay, motion, please.
Move approval of the open enrollments.
Second.
Motion by Stein and second by Iverson to approve the open enrollments. Any comments? If not, all in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And 6.5.2, the 132810s.
Yes, we have 4 132810s brought before you, recommending approval.
Okay, could we have a motion?
Move approval of the 132810s.
Motion by Stein. Second by Moulton to approve the 132810s. Any comments, questions? If not, all in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And now we're to 7.1 and the administrative reports.
Thanks. Just a couple of notes here for September. Arrow Education will be hosting a tailgate prior to the September 23rd football game. All are invited from 5 to 7 on September 23rd. And then homecoming week will be the week of September 26th through the 30th. So looking forward to those 2 events here coming up in September.
Okay, could we add to that, because it's Arrow Education Foundation, the Harvest fundraiser
Oh,
is
yes,
also
thanks,
scheduled?
thanks for that reminder, yes. And don't forget, Arrow Education Harvest event is on Saturday, October 1st. That would be the Friday after homecoming parade and festivities. So Saturday, October 1st, and that's actually at Studio 212 this year. Different location, but you can contact the Arrow Education Foundation office for tickets, or if you want to participate as a donor.
Okay. Is there any board report to the superintendent? Okay. As I would say with Mike Cartney announcing his retirement, we will be starting a search soon for a replacement. And I don't know if you want to comment to that anymore.
Yes, we will start a nationwide search to look for a replacement so that we can hopefully have somebody in place January 1, 2023. And that will begin here tomorrow as we start the planning process, with more details announced as we get further along and have some things solidified. So,
But we still expect Mike to continue his accomplishments till the end of the year.
that's right. He's got a couple more months to make
All
some
right.
headlines.
Okay. If there's no other board reports, I could entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Motion by Iverson. Second by Moulton. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.